What is cost of goods sold? All right, cost of goods sold, or COGS as we like to abbreviate it, is the idea of the costs that are directly associated with the specific product or service that you're selling. Okay, so that's a little bit vague. So here's the problem. A lot of service-based business get caught up and get really hung up on this whole notion of cost of goods sold when actually they don't have to. If you are running a service-based business, meaning it's yourself, it's your people, it's some time primarily, or maybe you're providing something in the courses or coaching business, or you kind of have a non-physical, a product that you can't actually touch, you have an intangible product, you really got to look at why are you even measuring cost of goods sold in the first place. There might be a reason for you if it's actually helping you make better decisions, but a lot of times it's actually going to add more confusion to you than anything else. So if you are finding yourself wasting a whole bunch of time to kind of try and separate out how much of my time as, say, a service provider was spent servicing a specific client versus how much of my time was spent on business development to acquire the customer, you're kind of going into this gray area, and that's fine to do a little bit of analysis on, but make sure that the analysis is ultimately helping you. Don't turn it into a big make-work project around, how much of my time was truly cost of goods sold versus business development. Don't do that solely for the purpose of making your bookkeeper or your accountant happy. Do it because it's ultimately going to make better decisions for yourself when you're actually analyzing your business. Where cost of goods sold becomes a more important concept is when you're selling a physical good or a physical product. So let's say that you are in the restaurant business. You're going to care about cost of goods sold because you're going to want to know, if I am, providing this entree for $15, what is the actual cost of, the protein and the side dish and all the different components to it. You're going to want to have a better sense of what are the direct costs associated with selling that particular meal versus your general cost associated with having the restaurant and having the entire space. Okay, very similar concept can apply if you are in the e-commerce business and you're shipping specific products. You're going to want to know if you're shipping a fancy mug to someone and they're paying your particular online retail price. You're going to want to know, what do you wholesale it for? So that can be a situation where the cost of goods sold really makes a lot of sense because it can inform what your margins are. It can inform what specials you're able to provide, what pricing really makes sense for you. Now, some people will still intentionally choose that, despite knowing what their selling price is and their cost of goods sold are, they'll choose certain items that are worth their while to sell at a loss or at cost because in the back end of their business, it's more beneficial to them. But those are probably more of the exception rather than the rule. What I would say is, if you are a service-based business, really ask yourself, why am I getting hung up on cost of goods sold? There's probably bigger and better questions for you to tackle. And if you are a physical-based business, just know that it's really nothing more than the direct cost associated with selling your specific product. Now, you might also be wondering, well, what is the exact definition of direct cost versus indirect cost? And the truth is, there's no hard and fast rules. It's direct versus indirect, but who gets to say which is which? Well, ultimately, every single business is different, so it's going to be an area with a certain amount of subjectivity and a certain amount of judgment. Use some common sense whenever you look into it, but don't get too hung up on what's direct and what's indirect. You might want to take a look at what are some industry norms there for you, but really remember, the whole purpose of separating out these expenses into these sub-buckets is so that it helps you make better decisions and helps you ultimately improve the net profit of your business. So if you ever get into the situation where you're spinning your wheels debating cost of goods sold, direct versus indirect, and it's not leading you somewhere to making more money for your business, stop, leave, walk away. It is not the question for you to tackle, okay? So now you probably know more about cost of goods sold than just about most people on the planet.